Serving it up to you live on the Buffalo Rumblings Vidcast Network, presented by Picasso's Pizza. I'm Bruce Nolan. That's Nate Geary, and this is Food for Thought, a show combining two of your three favorite F words. That's right, food and football. The third one is beloved cartoon character Foghorn Leghorn. Nate, were you around for the Foghorn Leghorn era of the Looney Tunes, or was that way before you?
Not a shot.
Wow.
Not a shot.
I am old. I am
Not a shot.
so old. Thank you so much for being a part of this, ladies and gentlemen. I appreciate it. As a reminder that every show on the Buffalo Rumblings Vidcast Network is brought to you by Picasso's Pizza. That's right. Treat yourself to the most flavorful pizza on game day. Picasso's. Treat yourself. Picasso's We Are Buffalo Pizza, shipping locally and nationwide. Order online at picassospizza.net. We got people piling in the comments section. They're here. You know why they're here, Nate. We'll get to why they're here in a minute. Jay Spence, the king, the dude himself, is here. Karen is here. Says, happy weekend, Bills Mafia, and drink. Not yet. Not yet. Randolph is here. Food for thought, go Bills. Chris says, let's go Buffalo. Let's go, Chris. Let's get started. But remember to get your Genesee ready. Get your Jenny ready right here, because Food for Thought is proudly presented by Genesee Brewing Company. Since 1878, Genesee has poured generations of brewing knowledge into each pint, can, and bottle of their beer. They make no sacrifices when it comes to their beer, brewing each with the highest quality ingredients for consistently great. Look, Genesee beer, cream ale, and their specialty lines with beers like Ruby Kolsch and Oktoberfest. Genesee Brewery, Rochester, New York. I had the cran orange that you sent me, Nate, recently, and I really enjoyed it. I'm not gonna lie. I'm gonna have a few tomorrow. I think it's gonna be a thing. Right now, I'm drinking a little. But we're going to get into why. But if you get your Jenny ready, if you've got a pint glass that we sent you for giving it for chat that was $10 or more, make sure you lift it, raise it, get ready. Remember to hit all the engagement buttons, like, subscribe, rate, review, do all things, and we are off. For those of you who were here last week, you got yourselves the beginning of something legendary. At least we hope so. Right. I would like to introduce you to the official Food for Thought drinking game. I have put it up on the screen for those of you who are following along. And for those of you who are listening in podcast form, I'm going to read this. So I'm going to give you a quick second to accumulate a pen and paper to run, because we're not going to be able to keep it all up. Now, we'll flash it every show, but we're not going to be able to keep it up. So if you are coming along with us on this journey, if you are going through the Food for Thought drinking game, then I'm going to give you a minute while Nate talks about this for a second to collect a pen and paper, to write down these things, to get started before the process begins. Nate, what do you think about this?
All right, so here's a couple of things. I'm only slightly worried that someone could potentially die in a 1-hour podcast. So because of this, Bruce and I have actually had to shorten the pod. No, I'm just kidding. We're not going to be shortening the podcast, but I think it's important to go through some of these and quickly mention there are a few that I think could really get people into trouble. I'm going to start with number 3, my cat jumping onto my lap. I can't control him. He is he's a camera slut, and he loves attention. So that could happen anywhere between 1 to 5 times at a show. And I like to shoo him off eventually, but he's very consistent. He's very persistent. So watch that one. Number 4 as well, me dropping a local restaurant. I that's only going to happen, roughly 3 to 4 times in an hour. And the one that I think could be the most harmful for health. Number 8, Bruce says, what I mean by that is that could absolutely put somebody under the table, Bruce.
By itself, it might crush the entire universe. That's a possibility. I think
it's very possible. It's very, very possible.
Okay, so I'm going to read these to you, 1 through 10. Number 1, either host mentions their pet. Fairly common. Happens more than one occasion. Either host mentioning their pet. Number 2, either host mentions their Dynasty Fantasy Football League that they are in together. Guaranteed to pop up at some point. Number 3, Nate's cat jumps on his lap during the show. You can decide to kind of handle this. If it jumps on the lap once, you drink once. If it jumps on the lap twice, you drink twice. Or you can just say, we can just cross it off the list, and it's only one time.
Yeah.
Whatever you like, you can do. Make sure to drink responsibly, as we always say. Number 4, Nate name drops a local Buffalo restaurant. Number 5, the third F of the show is actually an item that's a subset of food. Number 6, there's a super chat, which means you could double, triple up on this. If someone super chats us about our pets or about our Dynasty Football League, that's a
double banger.
That's a double
banger. A double rainbow.
7, a winner or loser of the week is some version of all of us. Nate, this is where you're guilty frequently. You'll be like, biggest loser this week, all of us for having to watch that game. Anytime that happens, a big winner, all of us, big loser, all of us, that's a drink. Number 8, Bruce says, what I mean by that is, which is just an absolute, the person who sent that to me knows me better than potentially anybody except for my wife, because I do say that all the time. I'm always defining things because I think it's really important. What I mean by that is, number 9, Bruce gives a fictional reason why his camera isn't working, because inevitably someone will jump in the comment section who's never been here before, and they'll go, why isn't the Bruce guy on? And then I'll say, well, funny story. There was an alien invasion. Okay. And apparently all they want to do is collect hobbyist podcaster vidcasters cameras. That's it. That's the only reason they showed up from whatever planet they were for. And so, I was trying to be a good host, and I just gave mine away, and I'm still trying to wait for the next one in the mail. Number 10, Nate openly Googles something during a show. We've talked about this before. It's riveting content.
It is.
Everyone loves it. It's amazing. And, it all works. Now, this is really important. If you are in the comments section with us, because this is going to be a communal experience.
Yes, that's right.
I hope you've written all 10 of these things down. If you are in the comments section with us and one of these things happen, you have to point it out and say drink. So, for example, Michael Partham at the very beginning said, foghorn leghorn is a chicken. Chicken is a food. The third F is a food, therefore drink. We got our first one in.
Wow. Right? Partham.
Axon Jackson 222 sends a super chat, and it just says drink on it.
Partham's a sicko. Holy cow. That's a really good reference. That's what you like to call as a deep cut.
Absolutely.
That's a deep cut from Partham.
The deepest of all potentially cuts. So now we're already 2 in, ladies and gentlemen. We are already 2 in. So I really hope you enjoyed. I think it'd be fun. It's something we came up with last week, and I just thought it would be a good time to be part of this, be part of this. How is my audio right now, Nate? Is it coming through okay?
You sound okay. Better than you did before.
I had a little Wi-Fi glitch earlier. I was getting a little Wi-Fi glitch in my top left-hand corner, and I was like, that's
the FBI. They're tapping in.
That's exactly what it is. They're tapping in. They're trying to get a hold. They're trying to hack in. And that's the reason why I had to give my camera to the aliens.
Makes sense.
I had to give my camera to the aliens so the FBI wouldn't hack it.
Had to really move the scent off of it, for the FBI.
Well, yeah, if there's the tracker in the camera, now it's not only not in the state or the country, it's not even on the planet.
No idea where they are.
Epsilon 5 looking for me at this point. It's chestnut checkers. Okay, chestnut checkers. We are going to get started with a relevant food topic, and it's going to be food too pricey for your tastes.
Food.
That's right.
Too pricey for my taste. Too pricey for my taste. Too pricey. Yeah. Come on.
Okay. Food too pricey for my taste. Too pricey for me. Yeah. Okay. We're good. Anyway, moving. Food too pricey for my taste. I'm going to get started. Usually this is where we talk about caviar, because Nate and I talk about caviar, as he mentioned before the show, way more than two people who don't drink caviar. Drink caviar, eat caviar.
You did tell me that caviar was a lot like little mini salted boba tea. So that's probably where your head was going.
That's exactly what it is. That's 100% why it is. 100%. So the food that is too pricey for my taste, I'm going to go with foie gras. And I've used foie gras as the F before. Foie gras is duck and goose liver, right? That's what it is. It's essentially liver butter. That's the texture you're talking about, right? It's liver butter. And I just can't get behind it. When I go to a restaurant and I see that they have foie gras on the menu, which has only been, a few times in my life, it's not something that's commonly strewn about the country. There's always something better, cheaper, 100% of the time. I've never thought to myself, the curiosity of having foie gras has never been important enough to me to spend that money. I've never thought to myself, you know what I really need? I need some foie gras, and I'm willing to pay extra for it. For a lot of people, this is where they would pump in things like Five Guys, right? Every time I say I like Five Guys, I was like, well, if I want a burger for $20, I can get somewhere else.
Yeah,
that's
sure,
what they always say.
Sure.
Five Guys, I'm expecting to show up for a lot of people here. For me, Five Guys, there's a time when I want to have a burger and I'm willing to spend what I need to spend to get Five Guys. I'm willing to do that. At no point in my life do I ever anticipate it being a spot where I'm at a restaurant and I cannot find something I believe to be a better value proposition than the foie gras. So for me, too pricey for my tastes. Nate?
Obviously, I picked the same thing.
Did you really?
Yeah.
Did you really?
Yes, I picked the exact same thing. Thank you.
Wow. I hope I talked long enough to stall.
And we've got some ginger simple syrup in this old fashioned right here.
All right. Well, while you're thinking about something else, we're gonna go to the comment section real quick. Trey Hardy says, "How is either host mentions the FBI not one of the rules?" And Karen says, "Because we would die." She says, "I love the comment section." Bill sends a super chat. Everybody, super chat. Got a drink. Is the glitch why you're not on camera? Yes, that's the reason. It's not the aliens, it's the glitch. 100%. Michael Partham says naturally the FBI is more interested in an anonymous podcaster than aliens. That would make sense. That would 100% make sense. Nate, did I stall long enough? Do you have another thing that you're ready to go?
I'm going to do something. I'm going to mention a food that I like the family of it, but the actual item itself. So, prosciutto.
Okay.
I like speck way more than I like prosciutto. Prosciutto sometimes just gets a little too oily for me, and there's way sometimes too much fat content. And when the fat content overwhelms it a little bit, it comes to me overly spicy, or not spicy, salty, not spicy. I would prefer like a spicy ham over prosciutto, and mostly because every time you're going to go somewhere to get prosciutto, there are other aged meats that are far in front of line for me than the traditional. Well, I mean, speck is number one. What would you say your favorite smoked and or aged meat would be?
Oh, that's a really good point.
Because, like I said, there's something about prosciutto to me that is like the third or fourth. It would be like down the list of smoked meats that I would go after. Is it technically smoked, or is it just aged? It's just dry aged, right? It's salt aged.
Let's look up prosciutto.
Here we go. Let me get on Google really quick.
You're gonna Google it. Drink. Nate's Googling something. It's a kind of ham that has been either dry cured or cooked.
I think dry cured is the most common one.
Uncooked, unsmoked, dry cured ham. So there you go.
That's why. I mean, it's just old ham, is really all it is.
Okay. It's too pricey for your taste.
It is. It just based on like I like the point you made about the value proposition that you're going to get with like foie gras. It's exact. So I've been to Paris before, and in Paris we went right below our Airbnb in Paris. By the way, we stayed in a shared Airbnb with an American author, and it was probably the coolest thing that I've ever done in my life. But I digress. She told us to go. Wow, did you see that? My cat just jumped right above me. He doesn't even care. He's up here. He's just chilling.
Drink it again.
We were very close to drinking again. But we went down to this place that was in basically the downstairs of the building that we were staying in. And it was a basically meat plate with cheeses. And Bruce, I'm not even kidding you. We walked by. The reason that we went in was it was just, there was so much stuff on one cutting board. It was 7 or 8 different kinds of meats, a lot like a pate, a foie gras, like that kind of stuff. And you're in Paris. Foie gras is a French delicacy, right? So we're like, okay, we're just going to try it. I can't say that I overly enjoyed any of those meats, but it's the same thing for me. And it's the same idea as foie gras. It's just if I'm going to spend the money because it's really delicate, I sometimes feel the same way about truffle, but I actually really like the flavor profile truffle brings. Not everybody does.
I actually think truffle would have been a good one for me because I'm the same way as you. I don't get anything from it for me.
I just a shave of truffle is $8.
Yes. Yeah. It's not worth it.
No, not at all.
Throw some salt on there, baby. Let's just get something different. So the Bills just beat the Chiefs last week. They go into their bye week off of a victory, and we're happy about that.
Mm-hmm.
And I talked a little bit on the Bruce exclusive earlier this week about some of the fan reaction to the game and how it feels like people always try and minimize a victory by saying, congrats on winning your Super Bowl.
That's right.
Always really annoys me. But given the fact that it wasn't the Bills Super Bowl, but it was a food. If Bills Chiefs was a food, Nate, what kind of food would it be?
Oh, I thought long and hard about this one. I'm excited about this one, Bruce, and I'm glad you're letting me go first because I just have the weird feeling like you might have also picked this. Chicken and or country fried steak. Depends on where you are in the country. They call them different things, right? Some places call it chicken fried steak. Really?
Yes. Chicken fried
steak.
Shut up. Chicken fried steak.
Shut up.
Chicken fried steak. I can't believe it. This is the second time this has happened.
Not two things.
You correctly guessed the third F word a couple months ago.
Yes, that's right. I did do that.
This is ridiculous. All right, keep talking. I got to write something else down.
Frankenfurters. So, but the fact that this happened in back-to-back segments, it's just each other piggyback. That's good stuff. And I'm glad I'm going to get to do this one because I put a lot of time and effort into thinking about why Bills Chiefs was chicken fried and or country fried steak. And Bruce, just like the country fried steak has everything a man could want, right? It's got steak, it's deep fried like fried chicken, and maybe the most important part, a sausage gravy on top. That Bills game had a little bit of everything, just like the country fried steak has a little bit of perfect of everything. Josh Allen was the perfect piece of dry-aged New York strip steak, aka the beef, right? The hurdle was the perfectly golden brown crust, the deep fried to perfection, of course, and the game-winning drive, the touchdown pass to Dawson Knox. It was that perfect. I think sausage gravy is the right way to go, but you can go any gravy. It has to just be a white, hardcore black pepper gravy over the top of that. My buddy that owns Teuton, drink.
But I'll drink.
Teuton and Compass
What are
Run.
we at now? 5, 6?
I don't know. Here you go, everybody.
It's been 20 minutes. So your buddy who owns Teuton.
Compass Run. So he changed his concept, and one of the first things he wanted to do was a aged country fried steak, and he does it with the really flaky batter when it's country fried, and I'm talking a big old strip steak. So that's the problem with. Can I say something about chicken or country fried steak, Bruce, that I think is a bit of a hot take? Is a lot of places do it. A lot of places don't do it well because sometimes it almost feels like it's a cube steak or it's like a Salisbury steak that's used. It's not like a real.
They can get away with a lesser quality meat because they're covering it in the batter and because they're frying it and because they're putting the gravy on it.
And it's not easy to cook properly. You really have to time up the internal temperature of the steak with the outside temperature. It's very easy to overcook, but it's equally easy to undercook as well. Undercook the steak, and then it is not an easy thing to cook. But the thing that upsets me about it is just like some other Bills Chiefs games, right? Is sometimes there's been lower quality. It's supposed to be this super luxurious thing that you're going out, you're having a kind of luxurious breakfast. But sometimes, depending on the quality of meat that they use within the actual product itself, it can be a little overrated. It can be a dish that you don't buy, even though you're like, ooh, they've got country fried steak on the menu. You know what I'm getting? And you're like, that's right. You know, then you have to ask the waiter or waitress. And there's nothing worse than being that guy or gal where you're like, could you tell me about the country fried steak? And, you know, you're not trying to like cut to, like, can I cut to the chase? Are you guys using cat meat for this country fried steak? Because you could just tell me now. You know, like, but you don't want to be rude. You don't want them to be like, they're of course, what are they going to say? Yeah, you know, we're actually using the trash meat. Now they're going to say, no, it's really good. So it's like, you're never going to get the true, you know, quality of it until you get it. Or you try to hope that somebody else buys it. And here's the thing too. If you're at a restaurant that has country fried steak and there aren't multiple tables eating it, you probably shouldn't order it.
That is a hot take. That's a really hot take. While I'm continuing to stall for my brain to catch up, Michael hit us with an awesome one. Said, how about if the bye week was a food? And I'm not even going to take this one. And the reason that is because Bill killed it in the comment section. Bill said the bye week is broth. It's technically food, but never satisfying.
Oh,
see,
Bill.
Also broth, great for you.
Yeah,
specific bone broths are really, really good for you. Mm-hmm. You don't really enjoy it, but you know it's really good for you. So I think broth is great. Bill absolutely crushed it. I have no further comments on that. And I do have something for the Bills Chiefs that is not chicken fried steak. And I'm going to say it's this. It's the chicken wings that you used to have in college that you went back to in your 30s. And I'll tell you why. When you go back and you try a food that used to like tear you up a lot.
Now you're just somebody that you used to know. Yeah.
Right? Somebody you used to know.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes you'll realize that your tastes have changed a little bit and they don't really mess with you as bad as they used to, because what you don't realize is that the food really wasn't messing with you. It was the quantity you were eating and the fact that you were consuming copious amounts of alcohol alongside of it. That was what was screwing it up. So you go back to your old college town and you say, oh man, Romano's. Let's go to Romano's. I haven't been there in a million years. You go to Romano's, you sit down. Oh, it's just a fictional place I just made up.
Oh, okay.
I have no idea if there's even a Romano's available.
If you had told me there was Romano's, I'm like, okay, yeah.
Sure.
That sounds like a place where you would go, frankly.
You go to Romano's.
Wait. What was the one? Wait. I'm sorry. I don't want to derail this really quick. The place that Miss Nolan likes to go to that had the sauce. What is it?
Place that Miss Nolan.
It's the crazy name. It's the crazy that I told you I thought was a fake place.
A Buca di Beppo. Buca di Beppo. That's right. Buca di Beppo. Yes. So you go back to, we derailed. You go back to Romano's, you have the chicken wings you used to have when you were in college, and all of a sudden you have a dozen of them, you have them, and they're fine. And they don't tear you up at all. And you go, well, that wasn't so bad after all. I think that this is way better than I remember it being. And that's what the Bills Chiefs is to me. Bills Chiefs to me is this team was 13 seconds away from being the Kansas City Chiefs in the playoffs. This team beat the Chiefs by 18 in the regular season. The way that we remember it is this heartbreaking, horrible stuff. The way it actually is the Bills were probably the better team in 2021. That was the reality. But the way we feel didn't necessarily line up with the reality. And so because of that, sometimes you need a reminder. You need to go back and you need a reminder about what actually is versus the way that you interpreted that it was. Because you remembered those wings from Romano's absolutely destroying you. What you don't remember is you had 47 of them and you drank 12 beers. That's the reason you're torn up.
It's funny.
So for me, that is Bills Chiefs as a food that is not chicken fried steak. Not bad for a guy who had to think of that on the fly.
I can't believe we both picked the same one again. We might have to start sharing prior to the show.
No, it's more fun when we don't.
It is more fun.
It's more fun. Bill says you guys might be spending too much time with each other. Here's the funny thing. We really don't spend that much time together.
We try to limit it as much as possible because this is happening too much.
We don't really, I mean, I haven't seen physically Nate in person in months and months. Right? I think I've only seen him in person twice? In 4 years?
Yes, twice.
I've seen you in person twice in 4 years. So That's clearly not it. Now, we are constantly texting about fantasy football, specifically our Dynasty League drink. But there is, much less face-to-face and social contact as you would think there would be, given the nature of these things that keep popping up on our show. Moving along. The reason why we talked about food too pricey for our tastes is because I wrote an article for Buffalo Rumblings that's going to come out this weekend. It's an opinion piece on why the Buffalo Bills did the right thing in not paying the price that the 49ers paid for Christian McCaffrey. But Nate could have a different feeling. I don't know. So the food simile for today is the Christian McCaffrey trade makes me feel like. And you went first on the last one. I'm going to go first on this one.
Okay.
The Christian McCaffrey trade makes me feel like you went to a bachelor party and everybody decided that they went to the strip club and they were going to have the buffet at the strip club. And you said, you know what? Some of that stuff looks pretty bad. I am not going to do that. And then they all got sick. Everybody got sick except for you. And you thought to yourself, wow, I was thinking maybe we were going to have a good time tonight. At this point, I'm just glad I dodged a bullet. That's the way that the CMC trade makes me feel. Because it really isn't a question of yes or no. And I mentioned this on the Buffalo Rumblings podcast network with Bruce Exclusive a couple weeks ago. I said, just do you want to trade for Christian McCaffrey is a completely loaded question. Am I giving up a conditional 7th round pick? Then yes, absolutely I do. It's not about yes or no. It's about a value proposition. I've mentioned this before a million times. Everything in life is a value proposition. And this is no different. It's about what you're getting versus what you're giving. What you give versus what you get. And so for me, when I look at the CMC trade, I think to myself, the Niners better win something. Because they don't have their preferred quarterback in right now. They made their call. Their preferred quarterback was Trey Lance. They kept Jimmy Garoppolo as insurance, and then they doubled down on their insurance by trading a 2, 3, 4, 5 for Christian McCaffrey. They were one pick away from this being Ricky Williams.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
They're going to get a picture of Kyle Shanahan with Christian McCaffrey in a wedding dress, and it's going to be on the cover of Sports Illustrated. For those of you who were around in 1999 and following the sports, you know what I'm referring to. So for me, it makes me feel like I was part of a group. That group was the people who were competing for CMC. The Panthers GM Scott Fitterer said they had 3 firm offers. John Warrow from the Associated Press said the Bills offered a 2 and balked at anything over that. I'm not sure how I would have felt about Christian McCaffrey for a 2, but here's what I do know. We didn't have the buffet. And the person who had the buffet, I think they're going to get sick. Because the only way they don't is if they win the Super Bowl. That's it. That's the only way this works. So for me,
it's a good one.
I'm out. And I'm out because I don't want to take part in the strip club buffet. Nate, what you got?
A strip club buffet. Only on this show does a strip club buffet become a topic of conversation, which is what I love about this show. If the Christian McCaffrey trade, or I should say, the Christian McCaffrey trade makes me feel like the first time I ever had melting pot, right? Everyone was posting these artsy photos of various meats and veggies and desserts that were being dipped in cheeses and chocolates, all the luxury you think you could handle. Just like in the NFL, having a running back is a luxury. It's not something that teams, typically good teams, invest heavy dollars into, right? Some people, they'd rather just do it at home, Bruce. They'd rather go to the store, go buy some carrots, go buy some smoked Gouda, and do it themselves for a much cheaper price. And just like this particular move, the Bills were at least in the neighborhood of spending a lot. And I think I tweeted not in a sane world, but in a, and just common sense would tell you that a second was a bit of an overpayment. Right? At least I think most people would agree that a second was overpayment. And just like you realize you just spent $100 on like glorified finger foods from the produce section and oily cheeses that slide through like an Arby's beef and cheddar nacho cheese whiz, you feel sort of violated, sort of like how I feel having heard the compensation last night for Christian McCaffrey. I just think it's so much for a guy who's been so injured. And even listen, I try not to. Jeremy White has this. It's the chart, right? And it's, oh, your team trades for a player, and wow, no, that's great. We the Bills didn't overpay. We really like the player. Oh, someone else trades for that player and has to trade a certain amount to get it. And the Bills don't do it. Like, oh God, they paid way too much. This is really one of those times, Bruce, where the San Francisco 49ers paid way too much, especially for a team that does not have I would say a certified franchise quarterback. They think maybe they had a franchise quarterback, and then he broke his leg in a pretty gruesome way. He's going to be out for the rest of the season. Is Jimmy G going to be the guy that is able to sort of give the ball to all the pieces in that offense, all the mouths that have to be fed in that offense? And everybody wants to point to, and I think rightfully so, Bruce, that they've just plugged and played any Joe Schmo at the running back position they've had success. They have one of the better run blocking offensive lines in the entire league. They've got Trent Williams, for God's sakes. And they've got Deebo Samuel, who I think they want to maybe not have run the football so much. I know he didn't really want to run the football, Bruce. So now I think you can sort of move away from running the football with Deebo Samuel, or in a lot of cases, which this will be the interesting thing to me, Bruce, is how many opportunities in shotgun do you have Christian McCaffrey and Deebo Samuel side by side in the backfield in shotgun next to the quarterback? I mean, I'm interested in what that could look like. I'm really interested in what that could look like with Trey Lance. But I'm not sure Trey Lance is a franchise quarterback, Bruce. He might be. And I know you just unloaded him in our Dynasty League.
Drink. I did. I unloaded him. I gave up Lance and 2 1s for Kyler Murray and 3 3s. Because at least it's just safe. I know Kyler Murray's on the can't get rid of me contract.
Yep.
I just know beyond a shadow of a doubt that he's going to be a dude for the next 3 years. Now, Lance could be better and I could be wrong. But
if Lance is not good, Bruce, they're in trouble.
Yes, they are. And you don't know anything about Lance at this point because
he's
played
nothing.
So little football for so many years that you get to a spot where you go, okay, we're projecting now 3 years in the past.
Right.
That's how far we're projecting now, because that's how long it's been since Trey Lance has spent meaningful consecutive games on the football field. The thing that I think is interesting about this McCaffrey thing for the 49ers is Michael David Smith, I think, said it on Twitter last night. He said, it feels like the Niners learned the wrong lesson, because if anybody in the world should learn the lesson that you don't need to spend that kind of capital on a running back to get production, it's the Niners. So it's like, oh, Kyle Shanahan's had a different leading rusher for 6 seasons. That speaks to how good the system is. Why are you saying that like it's a bad thing?
Yeah,
that's a good thing. That means you can plug anybody in and get massive production. You can plug Elijah Mitchell from the 6th round. You can plug Jeff Wilson in. You can plug whoever you want in and get meaningful production. That should tell you don't need to. You can spend that stuff on other things. It just feels a little bit desperate from the 49ers. And if you're going to be desperate, why were you desperate with Jimmy Garoppolo when you already were desperate in acquiring his replacement?
Yeah.
So now you're swinging for the fences to acquire a replacement, and then the guy you were trying to find the replacement for, you're swinging for the fences to support him to win a Super Bowl. But if he wins the Super Bowl, what are you going to do? You're just going to kick him to the curb? Are you going to pull a Trent Dilfer on him? You're going to have him win a Super Bowl and then say, oh, by the way, that first-round pick from a couple years ago, yeah, he's still our dude. So in a best-case scenario, you win the Super Bowl and you flushed 3 1s down the toilet with Trey Lance. That's the best case scenario. Now, I know that's probably they'll take that. If you could offer 3 first-round picks and win a Super Bowl, you do it. But the 3 first-round picks aren't what got you to the Super Bowl. It's the guy you were paying those picks to replace.
That's right.
Who ended up helping you get to the Super Bowl.
It just would be a gigantic waste of part of this, Bruce, is it feels like it could be a gigantic waste of resources and assets for Christian McCaffrey when they've already done that on a quarterback that it doesn't appear has the chops to be an NFL thrower. He reminds me a lot of what I'm seeing from Justin Fields. The sloppiness, Bruce, to me, is the thing that looks very difficult to overcome for both guys. They need everything to be perfect around them. And, at least with, from what we saw from Trey Lance, it was so early in the season when the injury happened. At least Kyle Shanahan looked like he was running an offense that was built around what Trey Lance's skill set were. It's very different offense than we're seeing Jimmy Garoppolo navigate right now as the starting quarterback for the San Francisco 49ers, unlike what we're seeing in Chicago, where they're trying to run in a pro style, West Coast style passing offense that requires all the traits that, Justin Fields didn't have coming out of Ohio State, because they just don't practice fundamentals of NFL quarterback play at Ohio State or something. So, it's a little puzzling. I'm not going to lie. At the same time, who right now are better than San Francisco and Philadelphia in the NFC? It's going to be those two versus the field. And, I like you get to a 1-game playoff and Jimmy Garoppolo doesn't turn the football over. They'll have a shot. They'll have a shot to win another NFC championship game and get to a Super Bowl. Will they win a Super Bowl with Jimmy G? I don't know. But if they win one with Jimmy G, with this roster as it's currently structured, are they keeping Jimmy G around if they win a Super Bowl?
I don't know how you don't. And because
what if they're close to winning a Super Bowl, Bruce? What if they lose in the NFC Championship game and they lose because,
they were close before
Hurts goes
right.
Right. Right.
You can't get back again. You can't get close again and go, okay, well, now we're going to keep him, because being close is what caused you to go get Trey Lance, because close wasn't good enough before. Bill in the comment section says, is CMC the food saver? Like, you'll say you'll use it, but it ends up sitting on the counter, making you rethink your life. No. It's the food saver, but it's you use it and then it breaks.
Yes.
That's why it's the food saver.
Break. No, CMC is a lot like the food shop. Remember that? Remember the infomercials for the food shop? It was so in your face all the time. You would always see the infomercial no matter where you were. And you're like, fine, I will buy this thing just because I keep seeing the infomercial for it all the time. You buy it and use it one time. And they're like, for 6 easy payments of $9.99. And instead of just saying, that it's $75, it's...
Are you a Mitch Hedberg guy, Nate?
Yes, I do.
Okay. So Mitch Hedberg had the line where he talked about the 5 easy payments, and he was like,
yes,
man, just for once, I want somebody to say it's 4 easy payments and then 1 really hard payment. Just 1 really difficult payment there at the end. Axon Jackson 222 says, drank, sends a super chat. What are we, 8 now? I think we're at 8. So the answer to this question, because the question early on was, do I take shots with this? The answer is no, you don't. You take drinks with this. You pour yourself a drink. You have a drink when something like this happens.
I'm almost done.
Yeah, I'm not done yet.
No, I'm. And for those that don't know, Bruce, tell the people what you're drinking.
Oh, I already said I'm drinking toasted marshmallow bourbon.
Oh, you did tell. I thought you just told me. I didn't know you told the people too.
Yeah, told the people. Moving along. We have got an email from Andy. Andy says, fellas, I'm a Bills fan living in the NYC metro area. Ever since the New York football giants hired Brian Daboll and Joe Shane, I have been telling any Giants fan who will listen, family, friends, coworkers, the dude of the local deli, that they should be raising their expectations for the team, and hot take, they'll pull a 2017 Bills and sneak into the playoffs. The reactions were mixed, but 5 weeks into the season, I feel vindicated. The Giants win in London over Green Bay feels like the Bills' 2017 win over the Falcons, who, if you'll recall, were coming off a Super Bowl appearance. This leads to my question. Given all the personnel connections between Buffalo and Big Blue and the aforementioned parallels in the timelines, should Bills fans be silently cheering for the Giants this year? Nate, should Bills fans have the Giants as their secondary team this year?
Yeah, because A, they can play spoiler. B, they can potentially make the playoffs over the Dallas Cowboys. That would be good. That would be good for business. That'd be great. And part of me, I will admit that I don't have the same hatred for the Dallas Cowboys a lot of people do. And I know the New York Giants also beat the Buffalo Bills, so maybe this is a little, I don't know, feels a little wrong to root for them because of the Super Bowl history and the Belichick-y and all that. But good for Brian Daboll. Brian Daboll's easy to root for. I think a lot of people here in Buffalo that I think he got blamed for things and for things that happened offensively early, especially like in the middle part of Josh Allen and their tenure together, the second half adjustments to a quarterback that was still growing. I think part of the Dable conversation is his development of Josh Allen. And, he's getting more out of Daniel Jones. There's no doubt about it. But let's not pretend like Daniel Jones is throwing the ball 30 times a game. He's still, I think what he's doing better than Joe Judge did is he's insulating Daniel Jones. He is not asking Daniel Jones to win him football games. He's not asking Daniel Jones to play outside of his ability level. And partially a very different approach to Daniel Jones than to Josh Allen, especially year 2, year 3, year 4, Bruce. I think Dable was giving Allen more and more and more and letting him at times fail in order for him to grow as a player. Right now, there is not that same approach to Daniel Jones. It feels like we know what your limitations are, and we're not going to ask you to do anything that's not within that limitation. And they're getting a great year from Saquon Barkley, who it feels like they should try to re-sign, but he's going to be another guy that probably makes a whole bunch of money this offseason. He's a free agent at the end of the year, but it feels like there's two different approaches, and it's a winnable formula. It's a winning formula. But at the same time, Bruce, I think about Brian Dable, and I think he got a lot of unjust and a lot of misplaced criticism when the offense didn't look like it looked like this year with Josh Allen is this mature and it's playing this well. He didn't play like the Josh Allen MVP level Josh Allen that we are seeing right now until the end of his tenure here in Buffalo, essentially. But he was a part of that development process because, Bruce, he asked more and gave him more things because, A, I think he knew he could handle it, but B, they needed him to handle it. They needed him to be that player for them to continue taking their steps as an offense. So I just think it's two very different approaches, but it's very clear to me that he's more than just a play caller. He is a darn good coach. He's a darn good head coach. I think the difference between becoming the coordinator or head coach transition is harder than people think, because you can be a great play caller and be a terrible head coach. And I think you see examples of that all the time. Gase is a great example of that, right? I mean, what a great play caller, allegedly, he was under Peyton Manning when he was his quarterback. Peyton Manning dragged him everywhere he went, but he just was not a good head coach. Josh McDaniels, their record's not very good, and I think people are looking him at the same way. People said the same thing about Lane Kiffin. So, yeah, the transition from head coach and from play caller to head coach is not as seamless as people make it seem, but I think Brian Dable is sort of the beacon of that transition.
How quickly people forget about what Brian Dable actually was when he got here to Buffalo. When Brian Dable came to Buffalo, the knock on him was he's never coordinated a good passing offense.
That's right.
And I, of course, went back and said, well, he's never had a good quarterback. But what you saw was you frequently saw him be able to build offenses around running backs.
Yep.
So the fact that he went to the New York Giants and just pulled out his we had Peyton Hillis, we had Jamal Charles. We're building the offense around this running back. Yep. He pulled out, just dusted off that old manual, went to his library, pulled out this old book, said, hello, old friend. Exactly, I remember you. And I think that the fact that the Brian Dable legacy is secure in Buffalo allows you to be able to root for the Giants, because now the Bills didn't suddenly become a bad offense when Brian Dable left. And because of that, you can feel free to cheer for Brian Dable without the narrative being it was more Dable than McDermott.
Sure.
Right? Because a lot of people who were finding reasons to hate on Josh Allen this offseason were like, well, he's never been good without Dable. Oh, it's like the last bastion of Josh Allen haters. Where are you now? Like the last bastion. Well, let's see if we'll do it without Dable. Right? That was the last thing. That was all you had. Now you got nothing. He's just really good. That's all there is to it. So for me, I look at Brian Dable and I say, okay, you just dusted off your old manuals. And it gives me more respect for the work he did here early in his tenure. Because early in his tenure, he didn't have a running back to build all around, and he didn't have an elite quarterback to build around.
That's right.
Because Josh Allen wasn't elite until 2020. So when 2018 rolls around, you don't have a good running back to work around. You don't have any of that stuff because the 2018 Buffalo Bills had what was left of LaShawn McCoy around, right? That was not a really significant version of LaShawn McCoy at that point. And, you had rookie Josh Allen. He wasn't even, not only was he not elite, he wasn't even good.
No.
His first year. Much less.
He had flashes, but he was not good.
No. So the Brian Daboll had to be completely remade because he didn't have an elite running back to build around like he had previous stops, and he didn't have an elite quarterback to build around. So that was it. That was all there was.
Do you get the sense, Bruce, that that's a team that brings a quarterback along? And I want to maybe in a roundabout way ask you if you feel like Will Levis is the perfect quarterback for Brian Daboll.
I do think that Will Levis is the perfect quarterback.
I do too.
I know that Anthony Richardson from Florida gets some first round buzz. And I think that you can see a scenario.
I would like Anthony Richardson to go back to college.
I would too. But a lot of people wanted Josh Allen to go back to college too for the same reasons.
Yeah.
Super raw, crazy athlete. Bub Rub 23 gives me a super chat for the Peyton Hillis name drop. Everybody drink.
I gotta drink for it, but I'm
Bill, out. Super chat. What dessert would the second half of the Bills schedule be? Oh my, you're putting us on the spot, man. You're putting us on the spot. What we're going to do is we're going to look up the Bills 2022 schedule. We're going to look at the back half. I am going to read this to you, Nate, and we're going to come up with a dessert, okay?
I've got one.
Okay, go ahead.
It's boxed Ghirardelli brownies. Here's why. So, I really like homemade brownies. I think they're really good.
Why are we whispering?
Because, she likes to make homemade brownies.
Okay, we're whispering now.
I really just like the box stuff because I'm a peasant. I don't want to hurt anybody's feelings. I like what I like. I like the cheap stuff. I like, the vegetable oil and really, really, really just like undercooked, borderline raw brownies. And I like it from the box. I'm a sicko like that. So it's box brownies because A, they're easy to make. And B, you know exactly what you're going to get. And I feel like the rest of the schedule, Bruce, is setting up for the Bills to win 15 football games this year. I mean, seriously, that's how I feel. And I know that the Patriots have looked a lot better. No doubt. Okay. Can they score enough points to keep up with the Bills? No, probably they can't. The New York Jets have looked. Whew, I mean, they've got. I think I'm on record as saying that I think they're the second best team in the AFC East. They can play at all three levels defensively. Their quarterback stinks, and he's not doing the Josh Allen thing either, by the way. So I don't want to see the comps with Josh Allen. Just like I'll never ever want to see Josh Allen and Justin Fields comps ever again. Please spare me. It's just not going to happen for Wilson. I think if that was a franchise that didn't need him to work out, Joe Flacco would be the starting quarterback. He should be the starting quarterback, to be quite honest with you. So if you're telling me those two teams, I think the Bills beat the Dolphins again. I think the Minnesota Vikings are frauds. I think they're fake. I don't think they're actually that good. I think they're going to be a one and done when they get to the playoffs. Let's see who else. I think Green Bay has lost to both New York teams. And they're 0-6 in Buffalo. They've never won in Buffalo in the franchise's history. I mean, there's no way the Bills can give up a win. You can't be the first team. This team can't be the first team to give up a win at home against Green Bay.
Okay, I've got it.
What do you got?
The second half of the Bills' schedule is creme brulee.
Ooh.
It is creme brulee because the first little bit is the crunchiest, but let's be honest, you don't really have to put that much effort in order to crunch that thing. To break through, you don't really put your elbow into breaking through the sugar layer on the top of creme brulee, right? You don't have to torque your elbow. Now, it's the most difficult, but that's relatively speaking. So Packers, Jets, Vikings, right? Those are three teams with winning records, right? Back to back to back. So it's the toughest stretch coming out of the bye, Packers, Jets, Vikings, based on their records. But none of those are teams the Bills can't and shouldn't win against, because they should. They should win against those teams. So, but then you go Browns, Lions, Patriots, Jets again, Dolphins, Bears, Bengals, Patriots. So at the very beginning of your creme brulee journey, the creme brulee journey, it's the most significantly you'll have to exert yourself, but it's still not significantly from a exertion standpoint.
It's easy to break through.
It's easy to break through. So and you should expect to break through.
I like that, Bruce.
You should expect that. So for me, it's creme brulee. And being able to do that on the spot is incredibly hard, guys. I don't know if you know this. That is extremely difficult what Nate and I just did to be able to do that. So for me, the dessert is creme brulee. Nate, winners and losers this week in the NFL. You want to start with winners or you start with losers?
Let's start with losers.
Let's start with losers. Let's start with losers.
And I'll go first. Biggest loser this week. Me.
You?
And all Elijah Mitchell for Dynasty owners.
Oh, Dynasty. Drink.
Oh, shit.
Even you forgot.
Even I forgot. Yeah, I mean, what a gut punch. People that are sticking around hoping he was going to be the player that he looked like he could be early on, especially early last year, gets the injury. And then he gets the injury 1 quarter into his season this year. And his inability to stay healthy made him expendable. I am surprised that Jeff Wilson has played super well in his place, Bruce. It's not like they needed the running back. It's not like the Bills where you look at, you're like, okay, this offense is missing a dynamic piece. That's not where you would say San Francisco was missing. But yeah, Elijah Mitchell, I don't suspect they trade him. They could. Maybe he gets healthy before the trade deadline and they move him. Or maybe they move him at the end of or at the beginning of the offseason. But it looks like he's, maybe another depth piece at best. But maybe worth a stash in Dynasty leagues because, Christian McCaffrey gets hurt a lot.
The Dolphins.
Elijah Mitchell, Dolphins?
Yeah. Mostert's 30. Edmonds has been disappointing. McDaniels knows him from the time as a run game coordinator last year. Just saying. It could happen. So what you need to know about Nate and Elijah Mitchell is that Nate is responsible for some of the best trades and the worst trades I've ever seen in my entire life. So I've mentioned before that I traded Michael Pittman after his rookie year to Nate for a 2nd-round pick. He absolutely obliterated me in that trade. Just obliterated me, right? Pittman's worth probably at least a low 1 at this point in Dynasty. But this offseason, Nate traded Nick Chubb and a 2 for Antonio Gibson and Elijah Mitchell, both of whom are not starters for their team now. So again, some of the best trades I've ever seen happen from Nate. Some of the worst trades I've ever seen happen from Nate. It's nothing in between. Either it's amazing or it's terrible. So for me, the biggest loser this week, it's J.K. Dobbins.
Oh, yeah. Both of us. We're going the Dynasty route here,
right?
Man.
J.K. Dobbins, 2nd knee surgery. Now, he's still 23 years old, right? There are plenty of people who bounce back from this kind of thing, right?
Yep.
But a 2nd knee surgery in 18 months is never a good thing. Now, this is a scope, right? It's cleaning out some stuff. When they say it tightened up, there's some inflammation there. So obviously, he wants to get it done. But if next year isn't a good year for J.K. Dobbins, it's over. The idea of him being a good back is still fine. The idea of him being a feature back is basically gone at that point. Because what did Barkley look like the year after his really significant ACL tear? He didn't look very good last year. Then 2 years post ACL, that's when people tell you they start to feel normal again. So, and Dobbins was ACL, MCL, PCL, meniscus, and hamstring. He tore all of them simultaneously. So 2 years, 2023 was always the target for J.K. Dobbins to be back to his normal self. However, that timeline is now screwed up because of the secondary surgery that he's going to have. Yep. So my biggest loser, J.K. Dobbins, this is a guy who's on a 2nd-round rookie contract, not a 1st-rounder where you get the 5th-year option. It's a 2nd-round rookie contract, which means
should be as good as it gets.
Should be as good as it gets. This is year 3 for him. It's really important that he comes back and hits the ground running in year 4 so that he can make sure he gets the bag. My biggest loser. Biggest winner this week. Nate, who's your biggest winner?
My biggest winner this week, the Carolina Panthers, I thought that they were absolutely rooted in another reality. Like, I thought that they were living in the upside down, that they could sit out there and demand 2 first-round picks. Now, they did not get 2 first-round picks. They did not get 1 first-round pick. But they got the equivalent. If you look at a lot of like trade charts, like draft, like how much a pick is worth if you want to move up, the Jimmy Johnson trade value chart, right? They got the equivalent of the 4th overall pick in draft picks back for Christian McCaffrey, which has to be better than I know anybody outside of Carolina thought that they would get for him. Now, Carolina might feel a little disappointed about that because they didn't get that first out of it, but I happen to really like what they got. I think that they are packing their stockpile to try to get a decent coach in there. And I, you heard some of the quotes from Sean Payton this week from Jay Glazer talk about Payton's not interested in that job. But if the only way that you could get a coach like Sean Payton to get interested in that job is to start stacking draft capital, because they have some of the least amount of draft capital in the entire league. The question is now, are they going to move a guy like DJ Moore? Are they going to move a guy like Brian Burns, Shaq Thompson? And if they're willing to do that, or Derek Brown, if they're willing to move one of those pieces, they're talking about Brian Burns potentially being worth 2 first-round picks. Now, that's a guy, that's a position you could actually potentially get to. Marcus Davenport was worth 2 first-round picks for the New Orleans Saints. So you can't tell me that Brian Burns can't fetch you. Right, he can't fetch you 2 first-round picks. So, yeah, and I also want to maybe add in here another biggest winner, the Rams, for not getting Christian McCaffrey. They're also the biggest winner. If they gave up that draft capital with the window that they're in right now, oh my gosh, that would have that. Now I know F them picks is funny, but it's actually not that funny. It's funny, but not as funny as the Rams were trying to make it. Shanahan saved McVay and Snead from themselves. Also a biggest winner.
That's a good take. I like that take.
And Kyron Williams deep stashes as well. Like I got him in a couple of my leagues because he's obviously from Notre Dame.
Of course. Bill says, how good will Cook be from Buffalo? Now, if you listen to Nate, he was going to be Arian Foster, and he was going to take hold of this entire running back position.
Misquote, fake news. That was misquote. He's trying to throw me to the bus. I said it would not surprise me if he had an Arian Foster-like emergence. Right, rise. I did not say he'd be or is Arian Foster. So fake news.
Fake news. You're for the fake media. So
I will say though, go. No, you do the Cook take. I'll give you my Cook take after I hear yours.
This is what it feels like to me. It feels like right now they just don't trust him that much.
That's right, and
that's okay. But the longer it goes without trusting him, the more you start to think about players like Ronald Jones.
You have the Bills schedule up?
Say that again.
You have the Bills schedule up still?
I do not have the Bills schedule up. You can pull it up while I'm talking about Ronald Jones.
Okay.
Ronald Jones, ironically enough, is one of the best pure runners in football. I know that sounds very hyperbolic because you never see him, but the fact of the matter is it's true. But Ronald Jones can't catch, he can't pass protect, and he makes mistakes all the time. That's the reason why he can't stick on an NFL roster. It's not because he's not a really good runner. He's a really, really good runner. But there's a lot more to playing running back than just that. If you want to look at whether or not a rookie can get on the field as a rookie, it's can they block? Because coaches aren't going to let a rookie running back, no matter how good of a runner you are, get your quarterback killed. And so there's more to being a great running back than just running the ball well. And in James Cook's scenario, I know that there are things that he can do that other running backs on this roster cannot do. I mentioned on Twitter that the running back who made the play against the Steelers to run into the end zone, that guy is nowhere else on the Buffalo Bills roster. Just James Cook. Everyone's like, well, that's ridiculous. No, he can't. Devin Singletary does not have the wheels to get the corner and the angle on that safety. He cannot get away from a charging Fitzpatrick towards him. Minkah Fitzpatrick is going to get him. But James Cook can slide off to the edge. He's got the wheels to be able to get that angle and get into the end zone. But it's not good enough. That's not enough for you to be a meaningful player in the NFL. You got to block, you got to catch, you got to make no mistakes, you got to not get your quarterback killed, you got to look good doing all the things that don't involve you touching the ball. Because a running back is going to be on the field. A running back is going to be on the field for the vast majority of all offensive snaps. But you're not going to run the ball on the vast majority of all offensive snaps. So what do you think they're doing the rest of the time? All of the things that you need your running back to do that don't involve running the ball that will determine whether or not you get to see the field. Now, it's still really early, okay? I'm not hitting the panic button on James Cook at all.
Me either.
But I'm going to be watching every single time he's on the field when he doesn't carry the ball. Because I want to know if he's doing things that will tip me off as to why the coaching staff wouldn't potentially trust him. Nate,
I think I have a big reason why. And if you listen to, maybe it was Sal that mentioned this, Sal Capaccio, right? If you listen to the words that Sean McDermott says in the press conferences sometimes, and then sometimes you get affirmation from what some of the players say, right? One of the things we kept hearing about, there was a word that you kept hearing about James Cook, and Josh Allen mentioned it a few times when talking about him. Sean McDermott mentioned it. What was that word, Bruce? It was made famous. It was made famous by a certain Philadelphia 76er named Allen Iverson. What was that word? Practice. That's the word, Bruce. Is the easiest way to gain trust in this franchise, in this organization, how it's currently set up at the field, how much Sean McDermott preaches, talks about, mentions, obsesses over practice. Josh Allen mentioned in a lead up to the Pittsburgh game, the thing that he noticed the most about James Cook, his performance, how much he was taking practice seriously. And I think that there was a growth period for James Cook coming from Georgia, where I think that with how big the roster is, it's college, I don't think that it was the same level of attention to detail in practice as it is in the NFL, especially for a guy who's trying to prove he can be trusted in those situations. And I also think, doesn't matter what either team says, they're lying to you when they say that each of these teams didn't take the Bills-Chiefs game like it was a playoff game. Both teams did. They shortened. It reminded me of like a basketball game where a playoff basketball game, you shorten the bench. And the Bills did that. You did not see a lot of, Siran Neal was the only bench defensive back, the only bench defensive player that saw extended time. And every time he was in there, he got penalties. So he got pulled. So it just, to me, Bruce, that was not a good game. That wasn't a good opportunity. I didn't expect to see a lot of James Cook in that game. But look at this Bills schedule, right? The Packers next. The Packers lost by 3 scores to the New York Jets last week. There's a good chance late in that football game, they're going to be up 2 scores. He's going to get some opportunities late in the football game. The New York Jets, the Bills, I think the Jets are an up-and-coming team. The Bills should handle their business against the New York Jets. I think James Cook could see some time against a very good run defense in New York. The Vikings, could be a close game. They could be throwing the football a little bit. Maybe they won't see as much time there. They should smoke the Browns. The Browns stink. He should see a lot of time against the Cleveland Browns. The Lions have the worst defense in football, and if they're playing on Thanksgiving, you could see a lot of James Cook.
The worst run defense as well.
You could see a lot of James Cook. The Patriots, better run defense. Jets, better run defense. Dolphins, I'd like to see, by the time the Bills play the Dolphins again in December, I'd like to see James Cook a little bit more a part of this offense. And is there a cutoff point for you, Bruce, where it's time? And maybe it might be time and has nothing to do with James Cook. And this is where it stands for me. After the bye week, I'd like to see Duke Johnson in for Zach Moss. They already inactivated him. They made him inactive last week.
I'd like to see a 2-man split, not a 3-man. I'm fine with running back by committee. I have no issues with it. I have always preferred my backfield to be 2 instead of 3. I think 3 spreads it way too thin. People can't get a rhythm. I just much rather be Singletary Cook than Singletary Cook Johnson, Singletary Cook Moss, Singletary Cook Black cheer for those people who really loved him on the practice squad. I know he's on the Panthers right now. I'm just making a joke about preseason football. But I'd much rather see 2-man than 3-man.
But what if the two-man right now was Duke and Singletary with James Cook as the third guy that maybe they use a little bit to try to get him involved? If you're not ready to make James Cook part of a two-man, which it seems like they're not.
Maybe they will be after the bye.
Maybe. But they weren't last week. And they weren't the week before, and they haven't been so far this year. They've given Zach Moss every opportunity to take it, and he has not. They've given him too many opportunities. He doesn't have it. He doesn't have it, Bruce.
My biggest winner for the week. Tampa Bay Buccaneers tight end Cade Otton.
Deep cuts.
Cameron Brate leaves with his second head injury in the last couple of weeks. Rookie tight end Cade Otton assumes the tight end one role, played 94% of the snaps the week that Brate was out, and shockingly has the trust of Tom Brady. How you managed to do that is beyond me. But getting a rookie tight end who has the trust of Brady is staggering. The hugest W. One of the best plays I saw last week was from Cade Otton. He was completely blanketed up the seam. And Tom Brady said, yeah, I'll throw it to him anyway. And he threw him, and he made a ridiculous catch with a guy blanket all over. I'm like, that's Gronk. It's Gronk right there doing Gronk things.
Baby Gronk.
And that's Brady, what he's thinking. He's throwing the ball going, oh, if it was Gronk, I'd throw it to him. Sure, let's give him a shot. But if you can manage to get meaningful targets at the tight end position as a rookie from Tom Brady, there is some possible upside to your career. And I know this was a very weird tight end class this year. For a lot of people, who was tight end one this year depended entirely on who you asked, right? A lot of people was Trey McBride, Greg Dulcich, Cade Otton. You know, for some people, it was the Virginia Tech tight end who went to the Colts, whose name is escaping me for some reason. And I don't remember. Jelani Woods. Thank you very much. Jelani Woods. So this is a weird tight end class. It felt like it was 5 or 6 deep of people who you could picture being tight end one, but there wasn't that upper echelon guy. I think there's a possibility because nobody's really established themselves thus far, right? Dulcich, I think, looked really good for the Broncos. But Cade Otton has a chance now.
You know who I would like to say one name before we wrap this show up.
I'm ready.
You mentioned a lot of rookie tight ends. You know who you didn't mention?
Who didn't I mention?
Daniel Bellinger.
It's because the offense is so bad.
But he's tight end 12 right now in standard leagues.
Yeah.
Tight end 12.
Yeah. It's the offense is so bad with the Giants as far as passing offense is so bad. They just hit 200 yards. They're like, 200 yards. And, you know, he's been getting some red zone touches, and that's awesome, you know. And I like Bellinger. But that offense just can't be trusted as far as passing goes. Not with Daniel Jones. Daniel Jones is a shockingly reasonable threat as a runner right now in his career. But that passing offense, I just don't trust it. Bill says, guys, I'm out of beer, which is good because we're out of time. Works out well.
It's a good transition, my friend.
Look at me go. Go. Almost like I know what I'm doing here, Nate.
Well, let's not.
Almost. I said almost.
Okay.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining me and Nate this evening on Food for Thought. I hope you had fun. I hope you enjoyed the drinking game. Shoot me an email. Shoot me some messages on Twitter. Let me know if you enjoyed it. I think we'll do it again. I think I had a good time. Nate, did you have a good time doing it?
I did. I had a really good time.
It was such a good time. So I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you drank responsibly, but I hope you didn't leave hungry.